This podcast is a member of the King of Wrestling Radio. Go to kowradio.weebly.com for more.
That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
And all you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni-beating, pie-eating, trailblazing, eyebrow-raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass.
Woo! I wish you and King would quit talking.
What's up, brother? Gangsta rap, brother.
Brother.
Brother, 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 brother. I'm 100% brother. Brother, 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 brother. I'm 200% brother. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside. Brother, 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 brother. Why do police hate brother? You gotta take a stand and don't have to hide. Brother, 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 brother.
Welcome to Around the Ring, episode 27 for today, Monday, July 27th. That's funny how that worked out. 2015, I'm your host, Dave Brown. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. Before we do that real quick, don't forget you can check out Around the Ring every Tuesday on right after Tough Enough on the Kings of Wrestling Radio at kowradio.weebly.com. You can also hear our episodes every week on K98 Talk. You can also find us on the Spark Radio Network. And our homepage, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. Also, make sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter, same handle, Around the Ring OK. Or you can send an email to aroundtheringok@gmail.com. So now that that's out of the way, Hulk Hogan, yeah, he stepped in it. God, I've actually been up for a while sitting here thinking, how am I going to start this? How am I going to talk about this? And as I got into wrestling, if at least partially because of Hulk Hogan. It was after WrestleMania 2, and I forget how I first saw it, but someone gave me a tape of WrestleMania 2, and I watched that thing over and over and over and over and over and over. And then eventually I discovered other wrestling shows, notably World Class Championship Wrestling and the NWA, or the Crockett Promotions stuff on TBS. And really I enjoyed that stuff more than the WWE, especially the NWA stuff. But, I was like most people of my age, my era. I'm 40 years old, so I'm a Gen Xer. We grew up on Hulk Hogan. We, especially my part of the generation and the early part of the generation that followed me, people who were kids during the 1980s, Hulk Hogan was a big freaking deal. The whole say your prayers, eat your vitamins, train, all that crap. Not that I ever really did any of that stuff, but it was a positive message, and he was a larger-than-life character, even though I will say I remember vividly watching, was it WrestleMania? I forget which one it was. It was the WrestleMania that Hogan fought Savage for the title, and I think they were both baby faces at the time. And I say watch. The reality was my parents would never let me get the pay-per-views. So back in the day when you had cable, you could turn to a pay-per-view channel and you could hear the audio, but the video was all squiggly and all jacked up. So that's actually how I watched WrestleMania 3, was I listened to it. And I pretty much did that for all WrestleManias for a number of years. And I remember the match with Hogan and Savage. Savage hit Hogan with like 5 elbows off the top rope. Hogan kicks out, hulks up, one boot to the face and one leg drop and wins. And I just thought, that's bullshit. That is utter crap. Well, a lot of things with Hulk Hogan are utter crap. Anyone that's followed this man's career knows that, first of all, if his mouth is flapping, it's probably a lie. It's hard to tell where, Hulk Hogan ends and Terry I can never pronounce his last name, some shit, where Terry begins. It's all a work. But more than that, it's just crap. The stories he tells about just being Hulk Hogan are wrong half the time. Lies, exaggerations, yada, yada, yada. But, so this situation, which most people know about, so I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs. A couple of shows this weekend did some really, really good explanations of what was going on. Both Wrestling Soup Saturday Morning Shitbox and Solid Monster Show yesterday on Sunday did excellent jobs breaking down the whole situation of what happened. The gist of it was Hogan was being filmed knocking boots of some dude's wife, and afterwards went on a racist tirade, dropping the N-word numerous times, and at some point saying, I guess we're all a little racist. It was 8 years ago. And I've heard arguments that matters and that doesn't matter. My first impression of this is, I think, wow, he really screwed up. Hopefully he's had a change of heart in these last 8 years, and there's no sense of privacy. If you are a public figure, you should expect that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you have a video camera on you, or at the very least you are being recorded, and that's pretty fucked up. No one should have to live like that. As disgusting as I find the Kardashians, and I find them pretty repulsive as a family and everything, no one deserves to have a paparazzi sticking their camera through your bathroom window and be followed around at all times. People don't deserve that. I mean, some people get off on it, some people love it, but, give these people some privacy. Does that excuse Hulk Hogan going on a racist tirade? No. Do I think in his heart of hearts Hogan is a racist? I hope not. Maybe it's one of those situations where I don't know. It's so hard to explain because he's obviously had black friends over the years. He worked with Mr. T. He's been friends with guys like Dennis Rodman, who's come to his defense. Kamala's come to his defense. Then there are other people like Teddy Long, who have said for years that he's a racist piece of crap. So, I almost think it's more of a class thing than a race thing. People who, and in his comments, if you think about this, he's going off in these comments about his daughter was apparently having sex with a black guy. She was trying to have a music career, and apparently some black guy came in and decided to give her a bunch of money to help her with her career. This pissed off Hogan, because he thought she was having sex with this guy's son, and he made some comment along the lines, well, if you're going to do that, at least have it be some 8-foot tall millionaire basketball player. I think at the root of this, more than anything else, is money. I think Hogan is an elitist snob, and if people have money, people are rich. Dennis Rodman, for example, you're fine. You're completely okay. But if someone doesn't have money, or if he sees someone as a lower class citizen, then you're an N-word. You're a piece of crap. Teddy Long, for example, a referee, a manager, never the star that Hogan was. He's a piece of shit. But someone like Dennis Rodman or Mr. T, or even to some extent Kamala, no, they're fine because they're famous people. And apparently he's gone on rants about The Rock and stuff, which is just hilarious. The whole thing is sad, really. It's disappointing and it's sad. And on the one hand, should I be disappointed that a man in his 60s who worked in an industry for his entire life that was known to have been filled with some pretty racist scumbag people, that he might be racist? No, I shouldn't be surprised. But I'm disappointed. And again, he may not feel like this anymore. Not at all. And maybe, maybe he was humbled at some point. At some point, in a divorce, he lost an assload of money. And I think in some extent that did humble him. Because if you look at the way he behaved going into TNA, and then when he basically came back kissing WWE's ass, trying to get back in good graces with WWE, he let them... He walks all over. He would walk all over everyone. He walked all over WCW. Walked all over TNA. But when it comes to WWE, he did everything he could to stay in their graces. And some of that, I think, was being humbled by the fact that he lost a lot of his money. Now, does that mean that Hogan's a humble person? Fuck no. Egotistical piece of crap is what he is, and a liar. And apparently a bit of a racist, if not, overtly, then has some racist tendencies inside him. So where was I going with this? More class. The whole thing is just sad. And then you have his daughter who writes this poem. And it is so awful. They read it on Wrestling Soup. You go listen to it. You can find it online to read. It's one of the most god awful pieces of writing I've ever heard. And she's an idiot. I mean, these silver spoon in her mouth whole life, and excuse me. Sorry, needed some water. I'm parched. So yeah, there's not a whole lot else I really have to say about this. It's kind of exhausting. I started saying earlier, I've been sitting here this morning collecting my thoughts and looking at my notes and trying to think of everything I'm going to talk about today, and I'm honestly kind of worn out. It was the shows this week, besides Lucha Underground and part of Raw, weren't that great. I mean, we've kind of got the lull of summer going on, and we got this pay-per-view coming up. We're getting ready for SummerSlam, which is a big deal, so hopefully things will get better between now and then. But really, I think that's all I've got to say on the Hulk thing. There are going to be people who say this is the PC police going after him. And that's not the case at all. People do get really worked up over certain words, rightfully or wrongly. I don't, sometimes I think it's a little silly. But there are some words, especially the N-word, that have such a destructive connotation that they really cannot be thrown around lightly. But Dave, there are black people that say, yeah, but there's also the difference between the version of the word that ends with ER and the version of the word that ends with A. They have very different connotations. It's... Okay, so let's think of it another way. Something a little less controversial. I'm kind of a fat guy. Do I want some skinny person calling me fat? No. But if another chub-a-dub calls me overweight or fat, fine. Why can they do that? Because that individual is also fat. Know your own. So that doesn't bother me. So from some extent, if a black person uses the N-word, it's okay. But if a white person uses the N-word, no, it's insulting. So I can kind of see that. There's also a great scene from the movie Threesome that explains it really well. It's Laura Flynn Boyle, one of the Baldwins, I think I forget which Baldwin. It's a fun, it's an alright 90s movie, but go find it. You'll know the scene that I'm talking about when you get there. But you know what? Enough about that. I really don't want to spend much more time talking about this, and because then we get real serious and start talking about really super serious things, and that gets me depressed or frustrated, and I don't have the energy for that crap anymore. There's a reason why I don't talk politics and current affairs issues. That's why I don't do a political show anymore on a regular basis. It's just makes my head hurt. And I just got to the point in my life, I don't have time for that. As one Miss Sweet Brown would say, ain't nobody got time for that. I do my best to take care of my family. I pay attention, I watch the headlines. I do vote. But in my day-to-day life, I'm going to stick with things that I enjoy. Comic books, professional wrestling, fantasy, science fiction, doing this show, hanging out with my kids. These are things that are important to me. And these are the things that... Oh, and music. God, how did I forget music? Jesus. Probably the driving thing more than anything else other than my family. I think it drives my life probably more than anything else has all been music. And so how could I forget that? But these are the things I concentrate on, and these are the things that I used to spend my time, because I can't do it. And the whole K98 Talk station started with my good friend Ricky Robinson, who he and I started a Facebook page, which turned into a podcast, which turned into this whole thing. And we talked about politics every week, and I just, one, my schedule changed, but two, even before it did, I just couldn't do it, man. I just can't do that shit. So instead, I talk about something I do love, professional wrestling. Speaking of, a whole bunch of other news stuff this week and the shows, so let's just jump right into the shows, and then we'll kind of get into news items. One sec, as I mark that off my list. Okay, so Monday Night Raw this week was pretty much all about Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. Undertaker came out for an in-ring promo at the beginning of the show, and basically said he wasn't mad about the streak ending. He was mad that Heyman and Lesnar wouldn't shut up about it. The thing I remember watching this is Taker seemed to have a hard time remembering his lines, and maybe that's just the way he's and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's how he's always talked. And maybe that's how he's always what's the word I'm looking for? I guess talked. But he just seemed a little forced. And then there was this backstage segment with Triple H and Stephanie, both giddy with excitement because Taker challenged Lesnar to a match at SummerSlam. And they start, calling people, getting marketing going, blah, 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 blah. We then had a match with Charlotte and Brie Bella. Team Bad, Beautiful, and Dangerous, stupid-ass name, was on commentary. One thing that was really cool during the little replay sections, they how they often show replays, it shows the Raw logo. They fucked up and used the Superstars logo, which was pretty funny. For the flashback from last Monday. So here are my notes. Nikki always dresses like a porn star. She pretty much does. Michael Cole messed up Tamina's name a couple of times on commentary. In this match, Brie wasn't doing a terrible job, but I think more than that was Charlotte making her look good. Charlotte won with a figure 8. It's the best Brie Bella match I've ever seen, which in and of itself isn't saying much. We got more backstage with Triple H on the phone. They run into Paul Heyman saying, hey, Lesnar's not here. No, I'm sorry. I'm not... Okay, so long and the short of Raw this week. I'm not going over all my notes. All about Lesnar and Undertaker. At various points, Stephanie and Triple H talked about how they had to keep these guys apart. They pulled the locker room together and told them, locker room, of course, except Randy Orton and John Cena, and Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns. They weren't part of it, but got the locker room together and said, "Look, you've if it comes to blows, you have to keep these two guys apart." Paul Heyman did a promo where he was just talking shit, and Undertaker comes out, Lesnar comes out, and this is when we have one of the best brawls I have seen in years. This was fantastic. First of all, Lesnar sprinting to the ring. When someone is pissed, that's how you run into the ring, when you're pissed and you just want to beat the shit out of somebody. He sprinted in the ring. The two of them just go at it. Security guards come out first, and then trying to pull them apart. That doesn't work. Eventually, damn near the entire locker room gets involved. They pull apart. They come back together. It ends up going into the back. It was great. It was just so much fun to watch. It was just a lot of fun. It was, like I said, it was a great pull-apart brawl, and it was really enjoyable. Some other highlights, there was a Bray Wyatt backstage promo with Luke Harper. I'm really enjoying this feud. Putting Harper and Wyatt back together was great. Harper and Roman Reigns had a match. Dean Ambrose was out in the corner for Roman Reigns. This is setting up whatever's going to be their match on at SummerSlam. It's probably going to be a tag team. Now there's talk about making it a 6-man with, I guess the original plans were the Wyatt family was going to be completely back together with Rowan, Harper, and Wyatt, and then they were going to face Ambrose, Reigns, and Sting. But now that Eric Rowan is out of action, what do you do? So this actually gets into a couple of the news stories I was going to get to, but we'll talk about them now. So what do we do with the Wyatt family? One, I like the idea of Sting being part of this. I think that would be a good fit. Who are the people that should come into the Wyatt family? Well, the names being thrown around for the most part have been Baron Corbin from NXT and Bo Dallas. And I actually like the idea of both of them. I would like a bigger kind of family for the Wyatt family. I'd like to see it expand. So I think bringing in Baron Corbin, because he's kind of that beast, muscly kind of guy, and then bring in Bo Dallas as the lackey. But I think they need to bring in Bo Dallas. Don't change his personality. Have him still be the Bo Leaver. He just Bo Leaves in Bray Wyatt. And he would be the comedy to that group, and I think it would be great. So for this, I mean, what they could do is just say, we're going to do the 6-man match, and then have Corbin show up at the last minute as a surprise. That could be pretty cool. So yeah, let's kind of hope that's where that goes. We then had Seth Rollins in ring promo, and oh my god, it was fucking boring. Then John Cena comes out. Oh, fuck no, really, John Cena? So this is apparently setting up a champion versus champion match for SummerSlam. Cena challenging Rollins for the world title. Gross. Really, John Cena? We need to see John Cena with a belt again. Because it was awful. Rollins looked like a complete bitch. It was just ugh. So yeah, just ugh. I don't want to see it, man. I don't want to see John Cena get his 16th world title. He's doing fine with the U.S. belt. Even though he should have lost. The match with Kevin Owens should have ended differently. Owens should not have tapped out. That was fucking ridiculous. But I talked about that last week. So this was awful. Just yeah, that's enough. So we then had a tag team match: Paige and Becky Lynch against Naomi and Sasha Banks. Becky does a great arm drag. Very Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, best arm drag ever in professional wrestling. Becky Lynch has a pretty damn close one. Team Bella was on commentary, and they were awful. Nikki has one of the most annoying voices in the world. The thing really that I think is happening here is you're seeing that the girls from NXT, even including Paige, make all of the other divas look so bad. Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Sasha Banks make these other girls look awful. Awful. And it's, it is what it is. At least now we're getting some really good divas matches on Raw. And I think someone had done the calculations. It was a good 20 minutes of the show, which out of a 3-hour show isn't much, but it's a hell of a lot more than they used to get. And the crowd is into it, which is great. The crowd is really getting into this whole the divas, which is phenomenal. I'm so happy about that. We then had the main event, which was a 6-man tag: John Cena, Randy Orton, and Cesaro against Kevin Owens, Sheamus, and Rusev. This is kind of a weird, 6-man tag match. They did promote it the whole show. It's very reminiscent of a lot of the kind of house show main events, but it's fine. It's, as far as I'm concerned, I liked it because it was something completely different. It's nice to see, guys like Cesaro, Kevin Owens, and Rusev in the main event of Raw. That's awesome. And so yeah, it was interesting. Cesaro got a really good pop when he came out. Sheamus came out, did his scream that I have no idea what the fuck he's saying, and the heel team fell apart. Sheamus attacked Owens because Owens was shoved into him at one point, and then Sheamus left. He said, "Screw this, I'm out." And then at some point, Owens is fantastic. Owens went over for a tag with Rusev. He wasn't there, and then finally Rusev was, and he said, "Oh, now you're ready." He tags him, "Get in here, you idiot." That was freaking great. Kevin Owens is better than damn near anyone as far as improvising on talking promos, the whole thing. He's just fantastic. I'm trying to think what else happened. So things kept evolving. Eventually Owens said, "Screw this," super kicks Rusev and leaves. Lana came down and attacked Summer Rae, which distracted Rusev, and poor Rusev got just hammered in the end of this match. So, and it was a really cool sequence. Cena hit an AA on Rusev, basically threw him right into Rusev's feet. Rusev turned into into Cesaro's feet. Cesaro turned into a Cesaro swing, and then slingshotted Rusev into an RKO. It was fantastic. It was such a great moment. And that was it. It was great having Cesaro in the main event. The crowd was into him. He's just fucking amazing. I did watch some of SmackDown this week because really I heard that that Cesaro and Seth Rollins were the main event for SmackDown. So I watched it, and there was a pretty good Dean Ambrose Sheamus match. Was it Sheamus? There was a Dean Ambrose match at the beginning. I think it was Sheamus. Yeah, it was, because the Wyatt family interrupted. But the things that really from SmackDown this last week that were the best. Kevin Owens and Rusev had a match, and there was this moment where I think it was right after Owens had given Rusev the cannonball, and he's trying to pull Rusev out of the corner, and he's so pissed, and he screams, "God, lose some weight." Which is completely ironic coming from Kevin Owens because he's a fatty. But I started laughing so hard when he said that, and it was great. It was I think this would be kind of potentially a cool feud. Eventually, Kevin Owens just left the ring and said, "Screw this, I'm out," and got a count out loss. So Rusev won via count out. Cesaro was doing a backstage interview and was doing a really good job. Again, for the people who think this guy can't connect with the audience, fuck you. Kevin Owens interrupted. They had a great kind of back and forth. And at one point, Cesaro said something along the lines of, why don't you do what you do best and just walk away. It was really good. Then we had Cesaro and Seth Rollins main event. A really nice pop for Cesaro. Match started slow, but had a really good ending. Other than, toward the end it got really good. Rollins won. He basically thumbed Rusev in the eye and was able to get in a pedigree and won. After the match, Owens came out to attack Cesaro. I'm really looking forward to this feud, especially if they highlight this feud and put it really high in the card, because that's where it needs to be. These two guys, even though they've been in wrestling for years, as far as the WWE is concerned, are up-and-comers. And these are two guys that could be your main eventers, your main event level guys for the next, 5 to 10 years. They're that fucking good. And WWE needs them. So we need these guys in this upper tier, and these two, I think, can bring out a lot of great things out of each other. The only concern I have with it is who's going to win. Who comes out ahead in this feud? That's what I don't know, and that's what kind of worries me. Because neither one of them can really afford any major losses. I would probably have to say Cesaro needs to win the feud because he really needs the momentum. But honestly, Cesaro needs to be challenging Seth Rollins for the world title, because he has definitely shown he can hold his own with Rollins, and he's a much better wrestler than Rollins. As good as Rollins is, he is better. A couple of things, more things on the main roster before we move on. There's a story out there that's saying a lot of the push of the younger talent is because of John Cena being vocal backstage. And, I can actually kind of see this. John Cena is in this weird spot where I think he's happy to put other people over. He's a model employee. He does what he says. He does what he's told, I should say. And he doesn't really argue a whole lot, but he could. And it's nice to see him, standing up for these newer talents. But then at the end of the day, though, when push comes to shove, when management says, okay, well, you've got to go over, he's not going to argue too hard with them. Most likely because he's a company man. And if you didn't see that interview with him and Chris Jericho that they did on the network, he is such a company man, it's almost sickening. But this idea that John Cena is the guy getting really vocal back there about guys like Cesaro and Owens needing these pushes, I like that. I think that's great. And I hope he does more of that, and I hope he takes some more risks and stands up to management. Because that's the thing. So many people are so afraid, I think, to do anything that goes against the management of this company because they're worried, well, I have nowhere else to go work. Well, you have nowhere, and that's not true. There are other places to go. You can go and make a good living doing wrestling in other parts of the world, in other parts of the country. Look at AJ Styles. He made like $400,000 his first year out of TNA doing Ring of Honor and New Japan and other indie dates. You can make good money working the indies if you've got, if you've got a name, and if you've been an upper WWE guy, you have a name. Alberto Del Rio, Alberto El Patron, he's doing really well for himself. So you don't have to be in WWE to make a good living in wrestling. And it would be really good for the business and for WWE, honestly, if these guys and gals start standing up more. and letting them know when stuff is bullshit. But yeah, so that's John Cena's apparently putting his some of his weight behind some of the younger guys. I hope that keeps going on. One other thing, speaking of SummerSlam, apparently SummerSlam is going to be 4 hours. My big question is, 4 hours of what? Do we have enough feuds to fill 4 hours? I mean, unless you're going to give the Divas 30 minutes for their match, which would be amazing. Unless you've got, unless each match gets a good half an hour. I don't know. 4 hours? We'll see. But that's the story. And as we're about to get, so we're going to get into NXT next, but before we do, there's another story going around about WWE and Ring of Honor. And we're going to talk about Ring of Honor 2 later, but apparently WWE is going around and doing not so nice things to Ring of Honor. They are going to different facilities, different buildings that Ring of Honor has used in the past, and saying, hey, we'd like to book shows here, but only if you don't book Ring of Honor shows. Also, they booked an NXT show in Houston for the same night as a Ring of Honor show. Yeah, that's just shitty to do. They've been fine with Ring of Honor for a long time until Ring of Honor got on Destination America. But Ring of Honor might not be on Destination America for too much longer because they have been... The way it worked on Destination America, Ring of Honor was on at 8, TNA was on at 9, Ring of Honor was replayed at 11, TNA was replayed at 12. Well, the first showing, the 8 o'clock showing, has been dropped and has been moved to 11 o'clock. So we're now only getting an 11 o'clock showing of Ring of Honor on Destination America. Honestly, I think Destination America is going to get out of the wrestling business come September. So I can't remember how long their contract with Ring of Honor was, but it's a pretty short contract. And I think once their deal with TNA is done, I think they're going to get out. They're going to go back to their Bigfoot shows or whatever the fuck they do. Which is sad because Ring of Honor deserves to have a bigger profile. Now, the weird thing about Ring of Honor is Ring of Honor is owned by a multi-million, if not billion-dollar corporation that's a media conglomerate. Ring of Honor could have a lot more money behind it, but that company just doesn't want to do it. They're happy to leave Ring of Honor as what they are, as basically a triple A level, as to use a baseball analogy, organization. And it's a shame because Ring of Honor has some of the best talent in the world of wrestling, and easily some of the best matches. We didn't see that quite so much this week on Ring of Honor. And in fact, let's talk about, since we're talking about Ring of Honor right now, let's talk about that next. Ring of Honor this week was the 200th episode. And it was mostly a look-back show, a replay show. They showed a replay of the match where the Addiction won the tag team titles recently. They replayed a nice chunk of an excellent match between AJ Styles and Hanson from late last year. And they showed some highlights of a Kevin Steen match, a feud that I honestly didn't see, so I don't know anything about. I was really kind of hoping that if they were going to go for this, let's look back at these great feuds, they would have shown some highlights of some CM Punk, highlights of Bryan Danielson, i.e. Daniel Bryan, some highlights of that stuff, but they didn't. They could have said, hey, look at the talent we have produced. They could have shown, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Cesaro, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. But they didn't, and that's, I think, a shame. The only new match on the show was an 8-person tag, which would have the members of the House of Truth, including Truth Martini, against Roderick Strong, the Briscoes, and ODB. it was a pretty fun match with ODB getting the pinfall on Truth Martini with a roll-up after spitting a bunch of alcohol in his face. It was fun, and it continues to. They had a pay-per-view or an iPay-per-view on Friday night. This was continuing the whole Roderick Strong versus Jay Lethal thing, and apparently it was a 60-minute match between the two of them. I haven't been able to see it yet, so hopefully I will at some point. Sounds like it was great. That was Ring of Honor. I mean, Ring of Honor was pretty much nothing this week, which was sad. They could have done so much more with that episode, and they really didn't. And it's kind of screwed up because here they are. They're on this national platform, really for the first time. Because even though they're syndicated all across the country, having a show on a cable network is a much bigger deal. And here they could have really highlighted, this is what we've been doing for the past 10 years. Look at all these people you see on Monday nights that you love. Look where they started. And but it was a blown opportunity. And I don't know if there's any. I'm assuming there's no contractual problems doing that, because it's a video they own from time when these people worked for them. But I don't know all the ins and outs of that. So it was kind of disappointing. But yeah, they're squandering an opportunity, and I don't really know why, other than they're very happy at the level they're at. And I know they've had this philosophy of slow and steady wins the race, and it's certainly winning the race against TNA. And their Ring of Honor is absolutely going to outlive TNA and going to have more of an impact in the wrestling business than TNA ever did. So that's that. But they're never, in this rate, going to be competition for WWE. And maybe they shouldn't. I mean, maybe they should be the smaller level, like the indie label, where the really good underground bands, the ones that don't get the mainstream success or exposure, but are really the best fucking bands in the world, live. Maybe that's what Ring of Honor really should be, and the fans who get it watch it, and the ones that don't, the casual fans, can just put up with the bullshit that goes on in WWE. But I think it would be better overall for the industry if there was a viable alternative to what the WWE does. And Lord knows, right now there are lots of little alternatives, but there's nothing major. So yeah, that was Ring of Honor for this week. And really, to Ring of Honor's biggest competitor, NXT. Not a bad episode this week. We had a little bit better than some of the previous weeks. We started out with Finn Balor coming into the ring for a little interview about winning the title. His mic work is the only thing that might be holding him back. But he's getting better, and I don't think I think everything else overshadows that, so he's going to be fine. Eva Marie did a backstage interview. She really creeps me out. I'm not going to lie. She's, so many people talk about how pretty she is. She's not pretty, I don't think. She looks like a baseball glove with the amount that she is tanned. And also, she can't talk for shit. It was just awful. There was then Eva Marie against Cassie, who on the indies is known as Casey Cassidy. Eva Marie did this kind of wannabe Ric Flair strutting entrance, and she was not impressive. She was wrestling like she doesn't want to mess up her hair or makeup the entire time. And she was very timid, was just not good. Yeah, like I said, she's creepy looking. Cassie has a lot more potential. What I saw of her was great. That's the girl they need to be pushing between these two. Fuck Eva Marie. I know someone in WWE has a major, major boner for Eva Marie. Thinks that she is the shit. She's going to be the next Nikki Bella. I don't know why. Well, Nikki Bella, I mean, even as much as she's improved, still sucks in comparison. I'll take Cassie over Nikki Bella any day. So, yes, and then there was, I forget the name of the finisher that she used, but it was kind of cool looking. Otherwise, it pushed the other girl. She's better. We then had a backstage segment. William Regal was walking into his office, found Tyler Breeze waiting for him. Tyler Breeze saying, "Look, what do you have for me coming for Brooklyn?" And it was really cool. What we do know is that he's going to get Jushin Thunder Liger in the TakeOver Brooklyn special. But we'll find out about that in a later episode. Baron Corbin had a match against someone dressed like a Power Ranger. The match might have been 5 seconds. They really need to give this guy longer matches. We've got to see what this guy can do. Also, I think turning him heel is a great idea considering the crowd is starting to dump on him. Because they loved it. At first, he's got this great presence. He's cool looking. And for a while, it was awesome seeing him just plow through these guys. We got to see what else he can do, dude. WWE, don't screw this guy up, man. So then we had Samoa Joe versus Mike Rawless, I think is his name, some scrub. Samoa Joe got new music. It's still awful. This was a boring match. Some have theorized that the reason why they haven't done much with Joe yet is he still has a bunch of indie dates, and he's got those, I think, through August. And that once those are done and he is full-time committed to NXT and WWE, they're going to do a lot more with him. I hope so, because so far, the Samoa Joe in NXT has been boring. We then got Emma and Dana Brooke in a backstage. Emma and Bayley had a match. Corey Graves during this match had a moment of commentary, and for those of you who know me will understand why I had to write this down. And I quote, "Doesn't matter how big your heart is when you only have one hand. Don't I know it?" So yeah, it was a good match. Bayley won with a belly to belly, or Bayley to belly suplex, and yeah, that was it. And she then got on the mic, challenged. She said she wants a title shot, but to do that, she challenged Charlotte first. So I think she wants to beat Charlotte and then go on to beat Sasha Banks, which is the way it needs to be. Sasha Banks and Charlotte are now on the main roster, so Bayley needs to win that women's title, and I think doing that in NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, would be a great spot. Speaking of, every single time someone said Brooklyn, the Full Sail crowd just booed. It was kind of funny. The Vaudevillains. Then Charlotte had an interview backstage, which was interrupted by Dana Brooke. I think we're going to have a Dana Brooke-Charlotte match at TakeOver Brooklyn. Yay. I'm not impressed with Dana Brooke, so it'll be a Charlotte match, so that's good. The Vaudevillains had a match against some scrubs. They won. Blake Murphy and Alexa Bliss had a backstage interview. The guy, and I get Blake and Murphy confused all the time. I think the one dude, not the one with the back tattoo and the curly hair, the other one, he like blonde. He did his hair blonde or something. It looks weird. I don't know what the fuck he did. But they were watching the Vaudevillains, and I guess next week they're going to have a match with the Vaudevillains for the title. So what'll be good about this? It gets the Vaudevillains out of the title picture, leading up to a Cass Enzo versus Blake and Murphy match at TakeOver Brooklyn. Excuse me. Which is what we want. Which we need Cass and Enzo to win that title in friggin' Brooklyn. How you doing? Final segment of the night, NXT title contract signing. It was typical Kevin Owens being awesome. Contract signing, had a nice little brawl. At one point, Kevin Owens made sure to slowly enunciate Brooklyn, to which got lots of boos from the crowd. He's awesome. Kevin Owens is just so good. And that was that. I'm not too excited about this match at TakeOver Brooklyn. But I think it's almost a placeholder because they're not sure really where to go next. I think a feud with Tyler Breeze would be great, though I don't want to see Tyler Breeze lose. Really, NXT, even though they're at the moment, it feels like they've lost a bunch of guys. Excuse me, I'm sorry, and gals. I'm tired this morning. Where was I? Oh, NXT has lost a bunch of guys and gals, but they're they've signed more people. Uhaa Nation's coming, and they're looking to pull more people from the indies and to build a bigger roster because they want it to be a national touring roster. And as more of these guys go to the main roster, they're going to need, NXT needs its own group of people. So eventually we're going to get, more and more people, and I think having a secondary title would be a good idea, and that title needs to be Tyler Breeze's title, and he needs to hold that thing for a long, long, long fucking time. So that was NXT. One last show for the week, because I don't watch TNA. I thought about it, and then I thought, nope, fuck it. Lucha Underground. Oh yeah, this is the good stuff. We started off with Big Rick in Dario Cueto's office. Rick is given one of the medallions. We then had a Johnny Mundo and Tejano match. It was a good match. The crew interfered for DQ, and Johnny Mundo's looking at them like, hey guys, I know we have problems, but let's both beat up this guy. And so they did. Alberto El Patron makes the save. It was good. Hernandez was in Dario Cueto's office. He gets at Ultima Lucha, he's going to have a match against Drago, where the stipulation is there will be audience members around the ring with leather straps that they will use to beat the wrestlers if they leave the ring. Should be interesting. It's kind of like a lumberjack match with straps. We then had the Mac versus Cage in a super quick win for the Mac via Sunset Flip. Cage freaked out and attacks Mac after the match. Really fun brawl. Dario comes out and says, makes a match for next week and announces that Ultima Lucha will actually be a 2-week endeavor. Next week will be the first part. So Ultima Lucha is actually going to be 3 total hours, starting with next week, with a Mac versus Cage in a Falls Count Anywhere match. That should be a lot of fun. Dario then goes into the ring to talk about the 7 Aztec medallions and shows a belt. Interesting looking belt. And this is a cool idea. So he says at Ultima Lucha there will be a 7-way match for the belt. He calls out the people with the 6 medallions, and each person puts their medallion into the belt. He says since Phoenix was basically killed, he lost his medallion, and there's going to be a battle royal tonight for the final medallion, but the final 2 competitors have to wrestle to a pinfall. Or submission, and Phoenix does come out and he's like, okay, fine, you can be in the match. And my brain just stopped working. But the way this works, it's kind of like a Money in the Bank sort of. Whoever wins the and I forget what he called it. Hold on, let me see if I have it in my Gift of the Gods match. Whoever wins the Gift of the Gods match and has this title, which has all of the medallions on it, they're like magneted in there or something, gets a title shot at the Lucha Underground title. But it's not instantaneous. Even Dario took a shot at the Money in the Bank. He said, you can't cash it in whenever you want. You have to give me at least a week's notice so I can promote the match. But yeah, he said, but if you take too long to take your opportunity, you then have to defend the title, which you could then lose. And then basically once let's say you are holding the Gift of the Gods title. You win the Lucha Underground title. The medallions are then split up and given out to 7 more people, or are earned by 7 more people, who then have a 7-way match for the belt. It continues. Great idea. I mean, this just sets up lots and lots of potential matches for a long time. Love it. The Battle Royal came down to Phoenix versus Marty the Moth, and Phoenix got the win, so he is going to be in that 7-way match. We then have Prince Puma come down for an in-ring promo, and they're making a big deal of the fact that Puma hasn't talked this entire time. That he is, that, you know, Lucha Underground's been around. Well, the Puma character is from Boyle Heights, which is in Los Angeles, and is of Aztec descent. Well, Puma is otherwise known as Ricochet, who's a black dude from the Midwest. So it's probably why they don't ever have him talk. So he comes out in the ring, he's got a mic, he's about to talk. Mil Muertes comes out in a suit, which makes him look even scarier with Katrina. The Disciples of Death hit the ring, attack Puma. Puma clears them out relatively easily. Muertes hits the ring, they have a nice little brawl, which eventually Puma lays him out and hits him with the 630 splash. And that's how we go off the air. There was a really cool moment where, and I've actually got it in part of my graphic, Puma jumped off, did a springboard off the ropes, flipped, landed on one knee in like a genuflect right on the seal in the middle of the ring. Pretty cool stuff. So that was Lucha Underground. So let's go on to Ultima Lucha predictions. 2-week event. We're going to have Mac versus Cage in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I think Cage is probably going to win since Mac has gotten a few victories over him. Drago versus Hernandez. I think Drago's going to win this one. For one, we know Hernandez has left Lucha Underground. We still don't know if we're getting a Season 2, by the way. But then Hernandez had this whole kerfuffle with TNA. His career is probably screwed. We have Blue Demon Jr. versus Tejano. You know, I'm going to go with Tejano on this one. Pentagon Jr. versus Vampiro. This is going to be a hell of a brawl. You know, on the one hand, I think Pentagon Jr. should win because he is this beast villain and needs some momentum. On the other hand, I'd love to see Vampiro get the feel-good win, and maybe he just barely wins, but we'll see. We then have Alberto El Patron versus Johnny Mundo. That's going to be a hell of a match. You know, I'm actually going to say Johnny Mundo on this one, because Johnny never quite wins the big one, so I think he's going to get the win on this. We then have the Gift of the Gods match, 7-way match for the Gift of the Gods title. Big Rick versus Sexy Star versus Superfly versus Aerostar versus Phoenix versus Bengala versus Jack Evans. I think we're going to get Phoenix to win this. Because he's great, and 2, I think it sets up something with the Lucha Underground title, which we'll get to in a minute. We then have the Trios title, Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, and Angelico versus the Disciples of Death. I'm going with the champions to retain, just because they're that fucking awesome. And seriously, why aren't all 3 of them employed by WWE? Why? Because they're awesome. That's why. And then finally, the main event, Prince Puma defending the Lucha Underground title against Mil Muertes. You know, I think Mil Muertes is probably going to walk out with the winner. And if he does, that sets up a feud with Phoenix being the Gift of the Gods champion. And they've got a history, so it sets up a nice little feud there. So that is Ultima Lucha. It's going to be 2 great weeks. We're down to the last 2, which is sad. Lucha Underground has been a great show, and I hate to see it possibly go away. So that's pretty much that. I think we're done for the day. Wow, almost hit an hour. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, that's it. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. The handle is Around the Ring OK. Make sure to check out our website, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. You can get all past episodes there and all sorts of good stuff. Mostly past episodes. Any other random weekly commentary that I have, it's on Facebook and Twitter. Even though I'm not very good at Twitter. I don't really like Twitter that much, but I use it. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Send me an email, aroundtheringok@gmail.com. And so, yeah, you can listen to us each and every week on the Spark Radio Network, K98 Talk, and every Tuesday right after Tough Enough, you can hear us on the Kings of Wrestling Radio, kowradio.weebly.com. You can check out a ton of great wrestling shows there. Definitely check it out, give it a listen. Great guys, worth supporting. And that's going to do it for me. Next week we will talk about whatever the hell else hits the fan between now and then. So have a great week, everyone. Be safe out there, and as Jerry Springer always says, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view. And believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Bam! Woo!
That sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.